Welcome to a replay of one of our many excellent talks from Secure Southwest 15, and thanks again to our sponsors Securious, C3IA, CrowdStrike and the British Computer Society, and most importantly our prime sponsor the UK Government Department of Digital, Culture, Media and Sport.
Now, I'm looking forward to this one, Rosie, no pressure. Aptitude and how you think. It's always vexed me. It's always vexed me to understand how I think. So hopefully you'll give us a little bit of insight and tell us whether it is actually more important than skills. So Rosie, welcome, and also to Victoria.
So am I going to be able to use this?
Just wave at me.
Great technology. I'm very good at that. And also this is a little bit high for me, I think. Yeah. So if I go back, that's the first slide anyway. Can I just say next slide? Yeah. Thank you. I feel like, is it Chris Whitty? Right, okay. I'm Rosie Anderson and I've worked in recruitment for over half of my life. So I won't tell you how old I am, but it's been a while in recruitment. I joined Honeypot Digital at the January last year. Having just returned from maternity leave, I decided to join a startup business. So I'm not your average kind of female, shall we say. Post-maternity, startup life, lockdown 2.0 was my first day of work, 2 children at home, but I think we've all had a bit of a crazy two years are we in now? We're third year of a pandemic, but thankfully we're all back to in-person. The one great thing that has come out of those years, though, is the number of businesses that have embraced home working and have realised the great people that they've got within their business. When they empower them to work flexibly, they really enjoy working there. So I am passionate about helping businesses hire great talent and find their next workforce, but I will caveat that with, I'm passionate about finding great businesses that invest in people and look at different places and can treat their staff well. Next slide, please. So there is a skills shortage, there's no doubt about it, but the skills shortage isn't, the skills shortage is at the experience level of candidates. There's boot camps like Caps Lock. I am a mentor for Caps Lock, really advocate for Jonathan and Caps Lock, retraining schemes, graduates, returners. There's a wealth of potential that's struggling to find their very first role. And businesses that have embraced, like I say, flexible working are now finding that their talent pools are, they've now got more competition. So because everybody's working flexibly, whereas a business might only have a competitor in the next town, they now have competitors across the UK. Next slide, please. In the Southwest, you account for 8.6% of UK cyber vacancies. So to quantify that, in the last 3 months in the Southwest alone, there were 276 unique cybersecurity roles advertised, and there's 150 still live right now. This is according to IT Jobs Watch. The average cyber manager salary was over 70k and cybersecurity analyst at just over 50k. So the salaries that are being paid in this local area are in line with the market. Next slide, please. So why aren't we filling roles? Sorry. There is an obvious disconnect between candidates and with clients. Next slide, please. We hear from hiring managers all the time. There's a lack of talent. People aren't applying for my jobs, but let's get real. Candidates aren't sat there looking for work all of the time. The people that you normally want to hire are in work. So that's why businesses like recruitment businesses, which is where I work, is around. If you post a junior role, though, you get bombarded with applications, but they don't have the perceived skills, or when you're looking at a CV, it's hard to assess what they've done. Candidates, I've also got lots of complaints. Nobody advertises salaries. So obviously basic recruitment hygiene, if you are recruiting at the moment, make sure you advertise salaries. The job specs are really badly written. They don't make sense. You're not advertising that you can work flexibly. So regularly I will get a job spec from a hiring manager and I'll ring them. And when I actually speak to them about what they want, it isn't what's written on the spec, because that was written 5 years ago. And technology moves, so I can see you nodding your head there, Dan. These are our pains. And these are what candidates are complaining. And candidates are your target audience of who you're trying to attract. A job advert, I will just say this now, a job advert should be different to a job description. Your job advert is all about what you're offering the candidate and why they should come and work for you. Your job description should be an internal document. And if anyone wants any tips on that, just grab me afterwards. I can send you some advice and things. Next slide, please. So is it time to kill the CV? I posted this question on Twitter and got lots of different answers. The CV has been around since the 50s, so 30 years before the internet was created. And a CV is great for experienced candidates to showcase what you're doing. Most people who are experienced probably don't get a job, though, through a CV. They get it through a LinkedIn connection or a network. And particularly for junior candidates entering the market, I do think it's time to kill the CV. Next slide, please. So, job specs, back to job specs. I hear time and time again that we need the security mindset. We need someone who can come in and solve our problems. And these are your professional skills, like being able to talk to stakeholders of all different levels, being able to talk to the board about what in their language, and then talk to your users and talk to your IT teams and translate all of that is a skill we see on most job specs. Now that's a professional skill, not a technical skill. So technical skills can be taught. We can even get third parties like Caps Lock to come in and do that teaching for us. We don't necessarily have to teach those technical skills, but professional skills can be much harder to teach. So when you are recruiting, why don't we look at what professional skills and transferable skills we need and use that to assess during this recruitment process? Next slide, please. So professional skills, and don't know where Laura's gone. These are some of them. When we see these on every job spec, these can sometimes be values of a business. We want people who are problem solvers, who are collaborative, who are lateral thinkers, who are great communicators, people who understand our business sector and how businesses operate. So again, a big, long list. Are we best assessing this on a CV? If that's what we need, is there a better way of doing that? I'm here to tell you there is. Next slide, please. So if we break job opportunities down to the base level and look at where we can transfer candidates in from other industries, whether that's from within our business or from externally, that massively opens up that talent pool. Training people who have worked before and returners is a much faster way to populate that middle tier of talent. So if we looked at that original statistic, 63% of businesses are hiring and struggling to find that middle tier of 3 to 5 years experience. What if we find people who've got 3 to 5 years or more from a different industry and a different business area, teach them the cyber skills? Won't that populate that middle tier of talent a lot faster? Surely that's better than sitting with unfilled vacancies and putting pressure on the rest of the business. Technical skills can be taught. Now, that's not to belittle technical skills. It's still difficult to teach that. But professional skills, they are there in our business and within other business areas and within other sectors. So why are we using CVs as an assessment technique for those junior level roles? If you look at policing, they have a technical challenge. If you solve this challenge, you'll get an interview. If you go to a cyber conference, there's normally a CTF. And all the sponsors want to know who did the CTF, who got the top marks, because we already can tell their technical skills and we can assess that they can do that. And you normally find it's people who aren't working in the industry, they're learning in their spare time. There's a business called Capture the Talent, which will create technical labs for you to assess technical skills if you don't know how to do that, and then give you a report that shows the areas they need to develop. So if you have a problem to solve, and don't we all within cyber, why don't you pose that as a question to candidates about how they would approach that problem? So if you're hiring in risk, ask for an example risk assessment for your business sector. What do you think are the top 3 risks for the sector that you work in? Candidates can be self-taught. They might be learning at home. They might be learning with things like the Ladies Hacking Society and looking for that first opportunity to prove themselves. Do you really want to miss out on talent that's learning in their spare time to try to get into the industry? And that's where I definitely think more can be done. So next slide, please. So I have a defence client that came to me. I actually met them at a conference and said, there's not enough women working in cyber and there's not enough women coming in applying for our jobs. So they came to me with this problem and said, can you help? So I said, well, okay, have you thought about returners or training people from other industries? And we worked together to say, okay, as a business, this defence business, do you offer flexible working? Are you able to train? Have you got training programs? Like, yeah, but candidates just aren't applying. And it's not just women, we're not getting anyone right for our business. But right, okay, give me the problem, but let me completely have autonomy to fix this. All I want you to commit to doing is to attend, it was the previous company where I worked at, our offices on this day with your team to assess a potential talent pool. So I contacted over 100 women and assessed them on their transferable skills. So we just worked together to define, we wanted somebody who understood a little bit about the engineering process, but that could be taught. They needed to be eligible for security clearance, and they could work at any of 3 locations. So it was quite a wide benchmark to see. But the only caveat I gave was you will not see any CV profiles. You will attend a day and assess this technical talent pool, on your assessment criteria will work together. So we managed to get 12 ladies to come to an assessment day, all various backgrounds. And we gave them, first of all, a team-based activity, a murder mystery, split them up into 2 teams, work together to solve this problem with the business assessing that. Then they had individual assessments where they had to mop out a smart fridge. What types of data could be transferred? Where would that link in with the home network? Where could potential vulnerabilities be? So following on from that day, 2 ladies were hired for the business. Both ladies had not been working at all in tech for over 3 years. One of them had been over 5 years, and they'd never worked in cybersecurity. And they're now thriving within that respective business, despite starting remotely due to COVID and having challenges that we all had with having children at home. Employers tell me time and time again, I can't find people with the right mindset and the right core competencies. And I will say, if you can find people with a security mindset and teach them technical skills, this is a way to solve that problem. And it's down to assessment. We're not looking in the right places, but we're also using processes that can be very, very outdated. So I'm going to invite Victoria now up to come and talk with me. So Victoria was one of those ladies that was hired. So are we best using that? Or should we come up to the mic? Oh, yeah. I don't know what I've done to the mic. I've killed it. Oh, there we go. This is why you work in engineering.
I know, it's a skill.
So, Victoria, what's your background? I know, what did you study at university?
Zoology, very relevant to cybersecurity. A bunch of animals.
Yeah, well, and then what did you do before?
So I've mostly been around the world of e-learning. I did a bit of development and instructional design, but mostly around project management and putting services in place, helping companies set up performance management systems, learning management systems.
Okay. And then you took a career break?
It was a enforced career break, thanks to it not being the world's most secure industry. So after redundancy number 4, that was time to have a step back and think about what I could actually do, what was interesting, rather than just falling into the next role.
Yeah. And why did you think cybersecurity would be interesting for you?
So it was something someone pointed me towards. They'd seen a scheme for women in cyber, and it just looked like a really interesting opportunity. I've always been quite methodical and science background, so there was just something about it that appealed. So I thought I'd give it a go.
Okay. And what about BAE was interesting?
So BAE they were great in that they gave me the opportunity and took the chance on taking someone on who didn't have the right experience. Really liked it's the naval ships division. So I'm actually building a ship, which is very exciting and something that my kids understand and think is very cool. Yeah. Not that they'd say cool. But
yeah, mums are never cool. And what impact have you made on that business?
So it's not the most diverse environment between ex-military, engineering and cyber. There, most meetings I am the only female there. So that in itself, having that presence and making people think differently. But I think much more than that, it's coming in with a different skill. So my project management skills have been used a lot, and that's probably been the thing that's been most recognised from those around me, because it's a massive company, but at my level there's not a lot of day-to-day project management. So I'm introducing spreadsheets and exciting things that let's think ahead to what we're doing, not just react. So a lot of that skills, like you say, it's the soft skills, it's the business skills that weren't there in that can't be taught as easily, and you don't see there with the graduates who are coming through, that I can be taught technical, but I've come with communication, negotiation, translation, technical skills. And
you've been described to me as one of the rising stars within BAE from your manager, because you've come in with such authority of yourself, and you're not scared to challenge engineering directors, for example. And I think sometimes with the military backgrounds, those grades that people have been in previously can put people off from making those challenges. And I know we like to challenge.
And speaking, Teresa, as a 47-year-old woman, we don't actually scare that easily anymore. I've got twins, I don't scare easily.
And so, twin boys at that.
Twin boys, twin 13-year-old boys and an 8-year-old boy. So, I'm not easily intimidated, and I'm not threatened by, I thought that there was an issue to do with certain practices, and I chatted to the managing director, because I don't care that he's 15 levels above me. If I've got an opinion, I will share it appropriately, obviously. But
and what we talked about, the different ideas that you've brought in, so like the coffee roulette, which I think is great. So Victoria started right at the beginning of COVID, or was it about?
I did 5 months in the office. And there were just different things. We have an Inspiring Women's Network, and something that I talked to and is now practice, is we all put our names into a hat. I think there's about 60 of us do it now. Put your names in a hat. Every month 2 people will be drawn, and you just have half an hour chat. And because BAE, it's the whole of BAE, so you're talking to a variety of people, and also got my colleagues, my male ex-military, more traditional colleague, he's joined in as well, and it gets him chatting to different people around the business,
which is great. What's been the impact on you?
Definitely my confidence. I mean, I had allowed my career to slow down. I did take the back seat in the house in terms of career development, and you do start to doubt whether your brain does still work after aforementioned twins. And actually, I can do it. I thought I would suffer from imposter syndrome more, and I really haven't. It is doable, and confidence.
What advice would you give to a business then who's thinking, right, this sounds like a good idea? What advice would you give them?
I would say it doesn't sound easy straight away, but actually it's really not as hard as it looks to think differently and to do things differently. So I think, a bit of bravery at the beginning, and finding someone you can work with to pull together something like the assessments. And then once you've got someone in, it's making sure that the structures are in place, and similar to graduate schemes, that you can offer mentorship and buddy systems, and have a structure, and just be aware of those sort of potential micro inequalities, that if you want people to be able to progress who have come from a different background, you can't then have the same expectations on them of, you must have X, Y, and Z, because they're not necessarily going to.
And what lessons would you say you've learned, or what lessons could you give for a business? So like that.
So, find someone that you can work with, consider how you can hire for skills, not, for aptitude, not the specific skills. And certainly the assessment days worked in my favour.
And you went into that not knowing anything about so I didn't prep them all, which I probably should have really, but how did you kind of find that going in? Well, actually you did 2 assessment days. We did another one, and brought 2 other businesses in to talk about that. How did you find that?
I mean, they were really good, because they weren't requiring of technical knowledge, but there was the opportunity to make it clear that you did have some level of ability, and they were enjoyable days. And
Right. Any questions?
I have other people's questions, which is even easier. So people who are neurodiverse may have more aptitude for cyber and IT, but might be even more put off by traditional recruitment methods. What tips would you give to employers to encourage more neurodiverse workers into their business?
So that's where you can use technical assessments. So CTF challenges, you can give them a technical problem to solve. You have to be mindful, and this is where having a good recruitment partner, it doesn't have to be an agency, it can be somebody internally who knows to ask, do you need any additional or alterations for an interview? Because if you know up front that somebody is neurodiverse, and there's a big spectrum of neurodiversities, and you can't have like a catch-all, we'll do this for neurodiverse because everybody's different. But if you have a partner that can help through that process, or somebody within the business that is neurodiverse who can help tailor that kind of program. Now, there's places like Autocon, which if you want to hire a neurodiverse challenge, they will work and mentor through that process. There's also Emma Philpott, and I can't think for the life of me, Nicola. There's Nicola, and there's Nicola from, yeah. And there's Emma Philpott, I'm sure, as well. She's got
she has.
That's it, Nicola Whiting,
and Emma Philpott.
Where they'll bring people into your business, or you can give them your security operations challenges, and they'll train them and get them business ready for you. So there's so many resources out there if you just look for it. And most of these are free resources as well, obviously.
Great, thank you, Rosie. Victoria, any experience from BAE on that front that you've seen?
I know that it's something that there are colleagues with dyslexia.
Yeah.
And I've not seen them having any problems. I mean, that seems to be something that's quite welcomed.
Yeah. Great. And it's that innovation word, and again, isn't it?
Yeah.
Think differently and take value from what's there. Given the challenges that graduate candidates with minimal experience face, what would you, as a recruiter and mentor, recommend as steps that they can take to get them on the cybersecurity ladder? So many. Top three.
Okay. Get some experience, and I don't necessarily mean job experience. So if you're going through a degree and you're doing technical challenges, write up about that. If you're doing a CTF, and there's always loads of free CTFs, there's one that's raising money at the minute for Ukraine. It's called the swear word, you Putin. At the minute, do those challenges, and then write up about what you did, and then how to remediate against those risks. For example, if you're interested in risk, have a look at the links that you have with businesses, whether that's schools, whether it's charities, and write up an example risk framework for an SME, a small business. Doesn't necessarily have to be used, but do something that creates your portfolio and expands on that. So whether that is, like I say, technical challenges and write-ups, the write-up's most important, because even if you want to be a pen tester, you need to write reports that can persuade the board in a language that they understand. So anything that you can do to showcase that you are going above and beyond, you're not just going to university, which is great, by the way. I'm not dismissing that, but you're doing extra learning in your own time. Join Discord channels. So if anybody wants them, just message me. I've got a list of useful Discord channels for people who want to learn in cybersecurity and tech, because there you'll find a community that will give you examples. If you have you got a home lab? Have you got a home network? Are you doing hack the box challenges and try hack me? Or there's blue range challenges now as well if you want to be a defender. Anything you can do that can build out that CV. And again, at graduate level, yes, you're going to have some experience, but it's that portfolio of what you're learning. And the first time you do something and you write it down, it's probably going to be a little bit rubbish, but it'll get better the more you practice these skills, which are real world skills that you're going to need when you're in the industry.
Thank you, Rosie. Yep. And as a last, just a point, isn't the mantra tech can be taught wrong, in the sense that the main problem is that job descriptions claim to require deep tech knowledge that actually is not needed? I doubt that deep tech can easily be taught.
True, but writing job descriptions that actually make sense is a skill in itself. Yeah. And that's where use your HR teams, challenge your HR teams, or use your recruiter to write a job spec. You're paying your recruiter for a fee. Ask them to work with you to really challenge that. Yeah. But if you don't engage by working with the recruiters, you're laughing already. But if you don't engage with your recruiters and speak to them about what you want, you're struggling anyway.
So it's right in the right spec with the
Yeah.
diversity requirements thought about
Yeah.
and built in.
Yeah. And I've got loads of tips for that. If anyone wants that, just reach out to me.
With the right language. So one of the things I did at BAE was I actually rewrote the job advert for my role to change the language. So
You've just answered the question I hadn't got to ask. So what did BAE do right around attracting women in? But I guess it's just what you were saying, Victoria.
Yeah, I mean, that's come later and I'm not sure if it's still that successful. I mean, the scheme they did with Rosie worked. I think they haven't done that scheme again and then probably had less success. But there are little steps like changing job specs because, women, the studies show that you look for 100% match, whereas men will look for a 70% match because they want room to grow.
Yeah.
So you do need to consider what's in the job spec and you do need to consider the language that it does play into some of those softer collaborative skills. So just tweaking the gendered language piece, I think can make a difference to how it looks.
And there are tools for that, free tools, Textio. Put your job specs through it. It will show you what's masculine coded, what's feminine coded, and alternatives. There's loads of free resources. But if you are advertising a job, it should be a job advert, shouldn't be a job spec, just copied and pasted and put on the internet. That should be an internal document. Yeah. But again, I've got tips for that if anyone wants help.
Excellent top tips there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. If there's no more questions in the room, we're on time. Well done, ladies. Thank you very much indeed.
Talk fast.